Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Well-Appointed Mystic. Today I wanted to talk about my June deep dive with the Botanica Tarot and the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. I thought it might be interesting. I can kind of do a bit of a flip through and talk about my experiences of using both of these decks together. So there's a little deck pairing going on. And just my experiences with working with them for an entire month. First, we're going to talk about the elephant hands in the room. My nail polish is all chipped and I apologize for that, but it was one of those situations where I either make the video now or paint my nails, but it's not, both were not going to happen today. So I went with the video. Hopefully next time you see a video from me, my hands will not be quite as elephanty. They always look really elephanty. I swear my hands are not that. They just look really wrinkly. I feel like I have old lady hands. My whole life I grew up having little kid hands, and now I have old lady hands. I never had a spot in between where I had beautiful, long, lovely fingers. Totally off topic. Let's get back to why I'm here today. So every month since pretty much sometime last year, I decided that what I really wanted to do was spend 1 month with a deck. And do my daily draws with that deck to help me sort of get more familiar with them, take a little bit less pressure off myself to pick a different deck every day to do my daily reading, because that became like decision fatigue, inability to make a decision, that whole kind of thing. So this helped me. I just sort of made a choice and sort of picked decks based on what my mood was or what I thought I might be into. And for June, I thought it would be really fun to use florals, which, where I live in the Midwest, it's very, there's lots of flowers and nature and stuff like that. And then also just, I'm very interested in nature and flowers, and also really wanted to get better at looking at astrology, because it's not something that I'm very familiar with. I don't have a lot of skills with, and I found that these two decks paired beautifully together, and I liked that because the Botanica Tarot, which probably somewhere says it was the Botanica Tarot, was created by Kevin J. Stanton and was it's a deck about the language of flowers, and I think it's published by sort of a small publisher, Beehive Books. So we're going to do this a little out of order. This is the booklet that comes with the Botanica Tarot. It is very much a little white book. There is not a lot. Each of the cards gets about half a page. It includes information here as to which flower is used or plant is used on each card. Then there are sort of keywords, reverse meanings, and then a brief description based on the choice of flowers. And particularly when you get into the minor arcana, there are other symbols included. So like in this case, there's what are these called? Like a bucket flower or something like that, vase flower. And then there were containers included on the card. So we'll just use this as an example, the 4 of Cups. It's the pitcher plant, that's what it's called. But it talks about the cups that are included in here are Labu Sayong from Malaysia, which is also where pitcher plants are found. So there are symbols on the cards that can help, particularly when you get into the minor arcana. The major arcana focus more on the plants. I do think that they're beautiful cards. There is foil on the back. They're a little bit, in the case of both of these, not standard sizes. For an oracle deck, the Oracle of the Radiant Sun is actually quite tiny and closer to like a playing card size. So very unusual decks, and the Botanica Tarot are almost not quite square, but they're shorter than a regular tarot deck and I think a little bit wider. So these almost feel like oracles and these feel more like playing cards. So they were unusual sizes, but I found that the colors really worked together. If you're not familiar with the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, it comes in a large box with this very large guidebook that goes into detail. And I'll talk a little bit more as I go through it because, again, I'm very much a beginner in astrology. I mean, like, I'm familiar with my own sign and I've had my chart done and I've downloaded birth charts and things like that to kind of learn more about it. But this is really the first time I've kind of deep dived into astrology in general. So this is actually how I laid my cards out every day. I would have a, this is very much from Dawn Michelle, I think, a leave behind, embrace, and then sort of an energy for the day with the astrology card. And what I discovered with the Oracle of the Radiant Sun, while I absolutely love these cards and find them very pretty and very engaging, I really like the art style and the coloring, and I like the keywords, I found that when I dove into the guidebook, oftentimes the descriptions didn't quite match what the keyword was for me. And so that left me feeling a little bit confused. I don't know what other people's experiences with this are. And if people tend to take this card, take the Oracle of the Radiant Sun and just use the keywords and maybe not the guidebook as much, because I did like the information that was included. And again, I can use this as an example. The way that the cards are divided up, this is the planet, which I don't know all my symbols very well. I think this is Saturn, maybe Jupiter. And this is Cancer. So it is the planet in this sign. And then this is the keyword that they associate with that or what they indicate. And then in the book, it's indicated here. They'll show you. So that's Mercury, Venus, Mars, not Jupiter. So it must have been, there we go. It's Saturn in Cancer. And just based on the keywords for Saturn, which is ambition, and Cancer, which is nurturing and attachment, it goes into details. And it starts off just describing people who have Saturn in Cancer and sort of what that might mean for them. And then there's a paragraph at the very end that describes when this card is revealed in a reading, it can indicate a struggle to maintain family or home security. It may involve accepting reluctantly the material assistance of an institution. So where it says charity, what it's suggesting here more is like a Five of Pentacles, like being willing to ask for help. So I'm not entirely, like, that's where I feel like it's a little bit, I don't know. So this was one of my stumbling blocks, and I worked through it, though I have to confess that at some point I didn't actually like draw cards every day, because I would kind of hit this stumbling block where things didn't feel like they meshed really well for me, and I was having a little bit of trouble. And maybe I took on too big of a challenge for the month to try to learn astrology and work with these cards that are very symbolic versus sort of the more, RWS leaning cards. So I think maybe I just took on too much all at once. So with the Botanica tarot, like, this is the Seven of Pentacles, and they feel so different. I ended up feeling like I had to look everything up to get their meaning. And what I discovered was that their meanings weren't always consistent with what I think of when I think of the Seven of Pentacles, so it was just like, that made me even more confused. And I ended up spending a lot of time like looking up details in other books, because I was like, I don't get it. I'm feeling a little confused. So here it says the flower is the anemone, and it's forward motion. Change leads to growth and requires hard work. And the coins show Athena's owl in various states of flight, being used on a variety of denominations across time. And so again, I'm thinking about, someone recently did a video about decks that kind of require homework or side quests, and I feel like both of these decks required massive amounts of side questing to learn more about the plants, because it says anemone here, but it doesn't give me a lot of information about the plant. It says it represents an era of change and transition. You know, plus I don't know a lot about Athena's owl or her coins, so it was just like, I got to where it was just like, I was just stumbling around. The terrible thing is that I find both of these decks super pretty, and I think that they look really good together. The fact that these are very simple images and these are very complex, and there's a lot of symbols and information in here. They were great to sort of look on. The fact that for the major arcana, the only information you have is a symbol that represents the card, so in this case, justice, kind of gave it a different feeling as well. You know, obviously sunflower is the sun card, but it definitely changed how I felt about the cards. Some of them were easier reads than others. The bleeding heart for the Three of Swords is like a quick read for me, and it was not a card that came up for me this month. Positive or negative there, I'm not sure. You know, but it's just, I don't know. I'd be curious to hear other people's opinions about this, like whether they've worked with this deck and if it was complicated for them. And in some instances, I've heard other people talk about issues with some of the symbols that are on the major arcana require that you go, like if you haven't worked with the deck a lot, needing to actually look it up. So in this case, the dandelion is the Fool, which I think is a lovely representation, and I understand the meaning. I think I had an easier time with the major arcana when those cards did come up for me than the minors. Because I almost think that having the plant and then a historical representation, like there would be like the coins from various, you know, historical contexts. For some of the others, you know, like this helmet, they would give some indication as to sort of what that is from. So like, let me look that up really quick. The Knight of Cups. So the Knight of Cups, the symbol is a dreamer's winged helm from Coleman Smith's art for the Knight of Cups. Oh, so they actually used the one. So that's curious. But anyway, so these were sort of, I had an unusual experience with this pairing, and it was a little frustrating for me, not being as familiar maybe with some of these sort of historical representations of the tools here for representing the wands, and the, you know, the tools here with the bells. Like, I don't know. I'd be curious, what do you combine? What do you use the Radiant Sun Oracle with another deck? And did you find a good pairing? I've always previously paired this with the RWS, but I used it more just for the keywords than actually looking up each meaning in the guidebook. So anyway, so that was my experience. And again, I go back, these cards are really pretty. I think that they work well together. I just don't know if I had the level of experience needed to get the most out of them while I was working with them. I don't know. Please comments how you feel about these, if you work with this deck. I'm wondering if I were to combine the Botanica with another deck, if I would have different results, if it would feel like if the Oracle deck that I worked with was something like Sacred Destiny or something like that, where it's a really easy reader, very clear if that would help, since these are so esoteric and sort of seeped in history and other things, to have an oracle deck that is very kind of easier to understand, not as complex in its messages. But I mean, if what your goal is to have like major side quest action in your tarot study, then definitely, I mean, these decks are it. Because, I mean, unless you're super knowledgeable in plants and historical stuff and astrology, like this may be like a cakewalk and you're just like, oh, this is so easy, I don't understand why she had such trouble with it. But for me, like, both of these were areas that I didn't have a lot of experience with. And so I think I just bit off more than I can chew, as they say. But I will not make you suffer through any more of this flip through. I just thought I would share sort of my trials and tribulations. I don't know that I've heard very many people talk about, like, I tried to do too much in a month and it all fell apart for me. So I'd be curious if you've ever faced this kind of challenge yourself. It'd make me feel less alone. So they're both pretty decks, and I'm as disappointed as I am in sort of my outcome. I'm not planning on getting rid of these decks, or, you know, they're not being shunned to a purgatory drawer or anything. I definitely just think I need to find a different way to work with them, and maybe in the future not combine two decks that have this much learning curve to them for myself. So, like, learn from my mistakes. Anyway, so I hope that this was insightful and helpful, and you know, that you have a wonderful July. And I don't know if other people do like 1 month deck studies, or if I'm the only person who just, like, if I try to read from too many decks in a month, I get really confused, and then I don't feel like I'm really connecting with anything. So I'm going to keep with that. And kind of what I do is I will often select, like, my deck for my daily card pulls, as well as like, if I'm doing a deck study with a book, like I've been going through Mary Kay Greer's 21 Ways to Read a Tarot Card. And I have a deck that I just have specifically designated as the deck that I will use with that book. So that way they kind of feel like they're doing different jobs and are in different places. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Let me know how your deck studies go, and if you've ever bitten off more than you can chew. Until next time, thanks so much for watching.